Okay, welcome everybody. I'm Christian Stenner.
I'm Kathleen Graham.
And we're here to talk to you over the next little while about studies inside a new system of glaciovolcanic caves in the crater of Mount St. Helens.
As opposed to the old.
As opposed to the old caves, that is right, because what most people are aware of when they talk about the Mount St. Helens glacier caves are talking about the cave system that used to exist. It was mapped by a bunch of fellows, but the study published by a guy named Anderson, who sort of led some of those projects, found 2 kilometers of cave passages around the 1986 lava dome.
So that is after the eruption.
Yes.
But before the second lava dome grew in the middle of the crater.
Yeah, so the caves that most people think of don't actually exist anymore. These are new caves.
Did people actually think of the old ones?
I think they did.
Okay.
Check. Yeah, if you do a search, and you can do a search and find information about St. Helens crater caves, you'll probably find information about the old caves.
And they got squished when the new lava dome grew?
Yeah, so, well, why don't we talk about it? Yeah, okay, so here in the okay, let's back up a little bit. This is a project of Glacier Cave Explorers, which is part of the Oregon High Desert Grotto of the National Speleological Society. Though we are the Canadians here to tell you about a project in the United States. We are with the Alberta Speleological Society and sort of lend our support to Glacier Cave Explorers. And that's kind of how we're here telling you about it. But this image on our slide is the crater of Mount St. Helens, and you can see both the sort of the 1984 and the 2004 to 2008 lava dome there in the crater. And you can see crater glacier wrapping around the lava dome there. And yeah, so when the 2008 lava dome it grew for about 4 years and then sort of stopped. It sort of like really mashed up, compressed, and made big changes to crater glacier. And all the caves that were around the previous lava dome, obviously are destroyed as a result. Yeah, so let's get on with it. What do we have here to tell you about the project itself? Well, this is actually part of a project that's on 3 different volcanoes, Mount Rainier, Mount Hood, and Mount St. Helens. And they all have these fumarolic cave systems, which are formed by volcanic gas and steam that emanate from the volcanoes and cause these tunnels, caves, to form in the glacier and the firn ice. So what we're looking at is looking at all of the fumarole cave systems. Maybe changes in the cave systems are a novel way to monitor the activity of the volcano. So that's one reason. We can look at the different changes in the size of the cave, the volume, the output of the fumaroles, the temperature, to see if there are any inferences that can be made from that. We are surveying the caves, obviously, because that's what you do as a caver.
Good cavers.
Good cavers. So yeah, we survey the caves. We're looking for any hazards. Or is there any carbon dioxide areas that are built up, or any toxic gas that can exist in volcanoes? Are there any unstable areas? If anyone goes into the caves, then perhaps search and rescue is an issue. Now in St. Helens, you can't go into the crater. You can't just hike up there. Well, I suppose you could, but you would need a permit. And if you didn't have a permit, the U.S. Forest Service might have something to say about it. So we had a permit, so just to make it clear.
And they have so much seismic activity, they can actually detect footsteps. So you can't even like do a ultra secret mission, like they'll know that you're up there.
Yeah, and in some of the cases, like at Mount Rainier, that is part of a wilderness area that needs to be stewarded. So in the area like Rainier, there's sometimes climbers put their waste bags, their blue bags as they're called, into the caves and stuff like that. So we're educating the park about a resource that they wouldn't otherwise have much knowledge of. And one of the neatest parts is that these glaciovolcanic caves are a really good terrestrial analogy to conditions that could exist on icy bodies in the solar system. So things like Enceladus or Europa, or perhaps even there's, you know, the icy areas of Mars that may have a glaciovolcanic connection that could be habitats for life.
For life.
As you can tell, we are not too serious, but this is really cool stuff. So bear with us. All right, so a little bit of the history about what we're talking about. It was 2012 that the USGS, in an overflight of the crater, noticed a gaping hole in Crater Glacier. That's it there. And it wasn't until 2014 that our project leader, Eddie Cartaya, and his co-leader, Brent McGregor, were able to organize the first expedition. So they went in there, and that is the size of that hole, and it was pretty massive. So they were able to sort of descend into that for the first time in 2014. And what else do you name a giant gaping hole in a volcano crater that's suitable for a giant lizard to sort of come up?
Now, did Godzilla really live underneath, like, Tokyo?
Yeah, you know, I should know a lot more about Godzilla lore, given what we've kind of done with the crater caves here. But yeah, well, I mean, there's so many remakes now. What is up with that?
I don't know. I'd have to watch TV to know.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so the Godzilla hole was the first one, and that sort of started the project. That year, they found 2 different caves there, and then another one close to their camp called the Igloo. So Godzilla hole started a bit of a theme. The other cave that was found was called Crevasse Cave, and then another one called the Igloo. But we'll get into those.
Those are more boring. Come on.
Crevasse Cave is pretty exciting.
But it's the name isn't very exciting.
No. Well, we'll talk more. We'll talk more about it. All right, so living in the crater is one of the awesomest things about the Mount St. Helens expedition. So you really get awesome views. This is our camp on the side of the 2004 to 2008 lava dome. And we are graciously provided some support from Hilleberg to have these awesome expedition tents, and some great photographers too. I have to mention that a lot of the photos here are by Brent McGregor or the photographer Eric Guth. And they use spectacular images of our work in the crater. So yeah, it's a great place to be in good weather, and it's a horrible place to be in bad weather. The thing about the crater is it just sort of has its own captive storms. And part of that is why the Crater Glacier is the only expanding glacier in the Pacific Northwest, if not in sort of the continuous United States, the lower 48. Yeah, it's a glacier that's growing, which is pretty intriguing. Yeah. So yeah, this was our camp after one of the particular storms that we had. So yeah, it can be a great place. It can be a very terrible place as well when it's winding and storming, and the helicopter can't pick you up.
And if you can kind of notice, we've built up walls around the tent to protect from the wind. Yeah, because it can be that bad.
Yeah. All right. But camp life can be kind of fun.
It's cozy inside the tent, yeah. So there's, and this one is the whole crew together. We've got a group meeting in the morning. I think it is 8 a.m. meeting and 8 p.m. meeting every day. Keep everybody on track, because it's a lot of scientists and then a lot of kind of rescue people and facilitators. So trying to keep people out of people's way, but get all the work done that we need to do in some kind of coordinated, organized fashion. So here we are, all enjoying each other's company. And then there's Christian telling a story in this picture. He's holding a map of the cave. And then we've got the maps of all the people behind us. So we've got the Canadians on the right. There is an Australian pair of boxer shorts that are kind of blocked by the light. And then there's a little Japanese flag, not to diminish the contributions of our Japanese friends, but because that was the only random piece of paper we could find to make a flag out of. and then the American flag.
Oh, and the German flag on the left.
Oh, and there's a German. Oh, yeah. What's that doing all squished up? Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's a really fun, a really dynamic group with a lot of people with a lot of different backgrounds, a bunch of countries. So it's cool. Here we are. So from camp, you have to go up the glacier to get to the caves. We're hauling a lot of scientific equipment a lot of the time. So here we've got 4 people in front of a sled pulling stuff, and then we've got crap on each other's backs. It's that triangular thing in the guy with the red helmet's bag. It's one of those anemometers, yeah. So we usually got two rescue sleds filled with gear every day to lift up to the top. And yeah, you just put your head down and work. That's fine.
It's a bit of a grind, but the trip isn't that long. Yeah. The weather was kind of bad a few of the times, but other times it's pretty nice.
Yeah, it's not the worst place to be sometimes. And I think that's Mount Rainier we're seeing in the background there.
That is, yeah. Yeah. And to get a view like this from inside the crater is just, yeah, it's one of those spectacular things that you really couldn't get anywhere else. Yeah. One of the things in the crater which is really interesting, which we'll see coming up, is rockfall.
Okay, make the rocks fall.
Here we go. I don't know if you'll hear it very well, but you just see our camp on the left-hand side, our well-worn trail to work. This is towards the end of one of the expeditions. But that noise is constant, this rockfall noise, all day, all night.
Yeah, so we kind of called it snap, crackle, pop. So you just get really accustomed to the sound of falling rocks all the time. Go to the bathroom in the morning and just try and watch for different various landslides. So our expeditions are always earlier in the sort of late spring. To go there in midsummer would actually be way too dangerous. We need some of the up high to be frozen and holding back more of the rocks.
Yeah, so much rock has fallen in the crater that there are some places where they think the crater or glacier itself is about 15% rock. Just rocks everywhere, and yeah, you don't want to be in there when it's all falling.
And the rim of the top of the
it's lost mountain? About 16 feet since the eruption, and that's just from rocks just constantly shedding. Yeah, awesome layers though in that video. You can see the inside of the mountain.
Yeah,
all the previous eruptions and how it's built up. Yeah. Oop. There we go. All right, so we've done 4 expeditions now so far, and on one of them here was the entrance. This is the top entrance to Crevasse Cave. So as you can see, we got to kind of probe your way out because you don't want to be stepping on a cornice into the entrance and falling in. So definitely have to take a lot of precautions, but an amazing world underneath the crater glacier. Here's the rappel into Crevasse Cave. And further in, we get into horizontal passage. So a few of the caves have these big vertical components, but for the most part, they're horizontal. And in this particular one, we actually had a chute that you can't see off on one side, but every about 5 minutes or so, a desk-sized boulder would come out of this chute and just shoot across the path that we're walking on. So we just sort of tried to time it to just walk across when in between boulder falls. But yeah, that's kind of a neat thing about these caves is it's not just a glacier cave, it's a glacier cave with a lot of rocks in the ceiling and in the walls.
Yeah, so this is one of our other caves. So there's always these layers. So common with glaciers, you can see 1 year's snowfall, and then there'll be kind of the dirt layer that's the summer, and then the New Year's snowfall. And here we see there's usually rocks in the layers here. And then, Oh, oh dear. So I was just trying. We're just trying to check the rocks before we duck under the passage and see how it goes, and that came out way too easy. Here, okay. So again, so you can just see the layers of the different seasons stacking up on itself. And because this glacier is really young, by like compared to other glaciers. So this is only max 30 years, but it's probably more like 10 years of ice. And here we're on the top, and this is in Mothra Cave, which has kind of been the most prolific. And there's a part where you need to ice climb up to get to the extension. So here we are standing in the extension part, but the part that we're ice climbing is actually when the glacier is actually horseshoeing. So it's being pulled from the left and the right side, being pulled down. So it's a glacier under a lot of tension. And when you put an ice screw into tensioned ice, it makes really scary noises. That yeah, you're not really sure if you, I don't know, new sport. New sport.
Yeah. Awesome. So what about this one?
Yeah, so this is a shot in Igloo Cave. If you look above, so this is fern, so this isn't real glacier ice. This is more like just compacted snow, and so this is seasonal. This is probably only 1 year of snow, or only a couple of years of snow. And the best part about this is that this is actually underneath of our camp. So where we set up our tents, we know that there is a cave underneath us. So we try to set up the camp where is the most thick. So you get out your avalanche probe and try and poke and make sure that it's solid with snow. And then we have to go around and probe out and flag a safe path to like the different areas to go fetch water and like the bathroom and that kind of stuff. If you walk off into the middle, you could be walking on snow that only has 1 to 2 feet of thickness to it, and you could just like fall through. And that actually has that, like some of our trips are really warm, so what starts out looking really solid, we can have sort of a sinkhole form while we're there, which is a really firm reminder that it's a strange place.
Yeah. Awesome. So we talked about Igloo. We've mentioned Mothra, Crevasse. We started with Godzilla Hole. So those are actually all the caves over about the first few expeditions. Those were the only caves that we were able to kind of get to on the east side of Crater Glacier. And it wasn't until this year, the most recent, so you guys are getting the most recent story here. In 2019, our expedition finally got over to the west Crater Glacier. And that's where we kind of, you know, our 4 caves that we kind of had, well, that number had to change. And we were sort of bound and determined to kind of get our way all the way around that arm of the glacier and see what caves might be there.
There's more caves on this mountain!
And there was. Oh. So what are we seeing here?
I see steam. Yeah, so this was on our helicopter ride up to set up camp. We kind of like buzzed the other side that we'd never even been able to hike over to. So this is from the helicopter. First day, we suspected there was caves, and then we're flying over and we're seeing fumarole activity. We see steam, we see edges of snow. We're feeling very good about our prospects.
Yep. And I think it worked out.
Yeah, it worked out. Here is a cryospeleophem. Woo! So beautiful. But yes, you got the drips making interesting features, and then the wind cutting out and making it a little bit more interesting. And yeah, this is one of our new caves.
This one was in Rodan.
Rodan.
Are we sensing a theme now? We had Mothra, Godzilla, now Rodan.
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh. What else can we find?
Wow, this was like
This one was
really long
called,
too.
well, we had to, okay, so we didn't brush up on Godzilla lore enough before we kind of did this trip, and maybe we weren't expecting to find a pile more caves, but we had to like come up with a pile of Godzilla names. Anyways, so this was Ghidorah. King Ghidorah is the three-headed dragon. And so this cave ended up first finding 3 different entrances to it, and that's kind of how it got its name. But we can see, what are we using for survey there?
Here, this year was the first year we used Topo Droid. Before that, we were using Pocket Topo. So it's, yeah, so really like it in the cave. These caves are pretty clean. They're maybe a bit drippy, but so, you know, feel very comfortable walking around with a phone in your hand. The only thing that we've noticed, so right here it's clear, but the fumaroles vent in different cycles, so different times during the day. It can get really steamy in there, and when it's really steamy, then our lasers is not working and it won't take proper readings. So the phone technology works fine. The disto doesn't always work. And then we get to start, well, we have to start taking 2-meter shots to get things to tie together.
Yeah. Borehole passage and 2-meter shots. Yeah, frustrating, but got it done. So yeah, more caves. Some of them were kind of like this, just sort of following the slope of the lava dome and then just pinching out. So there are a few small ones that we found, but the majority of the caves are sizable. So yeah, we had amazing sites like this. This is the largest passage that we found so far in any of the caves in Mothra Cave. So there's one part where it's sort of this canyony section, kind of vidose, almost like, but these aren't formed by water, so you can't really use that term. It's formed by gas. But you can see how high the ceiling is there. And it's actually, this one goes out to a second entrance that we had found earlier. You can see some of the rocks that are on top of ice on the bottom. Those came from the ceiling. So that's just kind of showing you more about some of the rock fall hazard that sort of exists in all directions.
And then, yeah, not only is there rock always, like, so there's rock falling from the ceilings, and then the rock is, like, so it is an active glacier, so rocks do move over time. So when we go back year to year, we're marking survey stations, but you can't be 100% confident the rock will still be in the place where it was when you originally made that station. And then also the science that's being done there, you know, so they've got a lot of data loggers they put by fumarole. They're trying to capture temperature, humidity, and a bunch of other stuff, but they've got data loggers laying in a certain place, and then some years they go back and they can connect to the data logger with Bluetooth and they can get their data, but they can't find the data logger. It's been buried underneath the rocks. So it's kind of a different problem than most caves.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit about some of the science. So here is, can't really see him well, he's on the right hand side. That's Dr. Andreas Flitch. He's our climatologist. So he specializes in climatology of extreme environments, and the caves are definitely an area of interest for him. So we have one of the ultrasonic anemometers sort of behind them. We can't quite see it. This was a place called the Umbrella Zone because it was so drippy. We were prepared, kind of knew that this was a thing, so they were able to sort of protect their equipment as they.
Yeah. So whenever you bring a laptop into a cave, we're going to recommend an umbrella.
Yeah. Anything that can get wet will. So yeah, so great work that he does in conjunction with that FLIR imaging to chart out fumarole locations and see how this unique climate can exist, tie it to the morphology of the caves, and tie it into some of the biology as well. So we're looking at different factors in the environment that influence life and how glaciers and volcanoes interact. So yeah, and that includes as well a really dramatic shot of a smoke test to see the airflow within. This was a cave that had multiple entrances, so to try to see which way the air was going.
And then, so the common feature in all these caves will be like a rock floor, usually on a 20, 30, 40 degree angle, and then the ice cave above, and with all the scallops. And so the scallops in these caves are forming similar to scallops, how they would form with water, but this is all because of like the speed of airflow and warmth.
Yeah. So our astrobiology team is Dr. Rick Davis and Roberto Anatori. They are have been part of the crew for a few years, and their interest is some of the sediments in the caves near some of the fumaroles. So we're looking for different microorganisms that might feed on rock or be influenced somehow by the volcanic gas that's emitted. So quite a few different samples have been taken, and they actually got a grant that will do a metagenomic study on this cave bacteria and from Antarctica as well. And they told me it was the largest genomic study ever conducted on a cave environment. So that's still ongoing, but they have found so far some what do you call it? Antibiotic properties to some of the bacteria as well.
Bug killers.
Yeah.
Is it bacteria killing bacteria?
Yeah, so that's what we're seeing on the right-hand side is a culture, and there's just the arrows are pointing to this zone of inhibition where the bacteria, I guess the culture is actually fighting off of other bacteria. I'm not the
predatory bacteria.
Yeah, I'm not the best person to explain it, perhaps on the part of my lacking multiple PhDs.
But when you, when you're so extreme that you come from a cave, you tend to not play well with others. That's what we're taking from this.
Oh, the cave bacteria fighting the others?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, think about it though, like in 1980, when this place erupted, like the amount of energy that was given off, like killed off all life that was there. So one of their experiments is actually to see how life colonizes a place. So they actually took some rocks and like sanitized them and then put them back in the cave to see what's going to grow on them bacteria-wise. It's kind of neat. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, we'll see what happens. Maybe they're going to find a bunch of new bacteria that feeds on volcanic gas and St. Helens volcanic rock debris. Yeah, we're interested to see the results. All right, but some of the coolest stuff wasn't biology and wasn't climatology. Well, I mean, okay, we don't want to say one is better than any of the others. I should take that back.
Because if we could disprove our theories on where life came from, that'd be pretty crazy.
But what's the science of so we got astrobiology, volcanology, climatology, speleology,
cryospeleology,
astrobioclimatology, volcanology. I don't know what to call all of this, but now there's robots also.
Robots. So this is the Jet Propulsion Lab testing kind of blue sky ideas, and one of them being an ice worm that can climb ice, and then with an ice screw be taking like a core sample, and then the core sample would go through a detector that would analyze for bacteria, chemistry, blah, 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 and try and find signs of life. That's kind of the idea. So first things first, you gotta make a robot that can climb up ice.
And they did.
And they did. And so here is, so these guys, so the Jet Propulsion Lab is in LA. So first they made a robot, and then they froze giant ice cubes in Rubbermaid bins and kind of proved the concept, but that's not super convincing. So here it is taking its first steps on some real ice. They don't totally trust it, so it's on a rope just in case it falls. And it's still on an umbilical cord that runs back to a laptop. But yeah, so this is.
It took its first steps, and here's Dr. Aaron Curtis celebrating like a proud father.
It worked. It worked. Yeah, and then here's one of the other guys driving the robot, and I think he's like measuring the torque and I don't know whatever else.
Yeah. He had a giant red stop button as well in case it became sentient and started killing everyone. That didn't happen.
That also be pretty wild.
Yeah. Okay.
And then this is the arms of the end of the ice screw, the ice worm, is called the ice screw end effector. So that is the ice screw climbing hands. I think they were experimenting a little too hard and broke the worm before our trip on 2019. So that was sad. So they're just checking some enhancements to the end effectors here.
Yep. All right.
I think it got bigger.
It kind of looks like it got bigger.
Supposed to get smaller?
Well, yeah, I think eventually this thing has to be a lot smaller to make it.
And probably a lot lighter.
Yeah. But hey.
Transformers.
All right.
Okay. Oh, okay. So most of these caves are it's unstable rock on big slopes, and so we have to be like really careful when we're walking down. We kind of get one path, and you either walk really close together or really far apart. And one of the days, so there's 3 of us going in carrying a big case, like some of those like ice worm type stuff is a case that can be like 70 pounds. So 2 people take it, and then the third person comes around to the front, and we kind of like shuttle the case along as we go down the slope. So 2 of us were together, Jessica and I, and then Mark was trying to stay away from us. So he went far to the left-hand side, off the beaten path, and he felt a rock move, and he knew it was going to go. So he called back for us to get out of the way, just in time for us to look and see this van-sized rock start moving. And then really started rolling, and he jumped out of the way, but like got clipped by it, and then he starts rolling, and it's just like a rag doll, and it's such a disgusting feeling to be like staring at a human, and you can't do anything, but he just like flew by us and then did a somersault, and then like rolled again, and then landed in a heap. And while this like giant rock was rolling beside him all the way down, and then it lands at the bottom, like boom, and we're just like, and you need to go help, but you're kind of scared of what kind of carnage you might be getting to. So we delicately come up to Mark, and he was actually totally fine. Like he just had some bruises, and he ripped his coat. And it was like, holy crap. So he kind of dusted himself off. We're all super shaken. We went and did the minimum objective. I can't remember what it was for that day, but went to work and did our thing, and didn't really talk about how bad it could have been, but it was because we all knew. I guess Mark must have reflected on a couple of things, because he came back and got some spare parts out of the robot kit and made a really cool ring, and then engaged to Jessica on the rock.
On the lava dome in the crater of St. Helens.
Yeah, with a ring that's made from
space robot parts.
Yeah, it was pretty. Yeah, it was pretty cool. I mean, we were trying to give them space, but we're totally all like staring out of the tent,
creeping on this moment.
So that was scary and then special, and yeah, we were all a happy family.
I should mention, like, so there is volcanic gas and stuff. So we do have gas monitors, and we actually have these emergency escape breathing devices in case like there's a gas issue. So, I mean, for the most part, we've got a lot of safety built in, but in caves, there's always that element you can't predict, and moving rocks is definitely one of the factors in these. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, congratulations to them. Yay.
Yay.
All right, so let's get to some survey before we wrap this up. All right, so here's what Mothra Cave looks like in a plan view. That was a survey compiled over 2017, 2018, and just to show how these caves change over time. This is spatially plotted to see the 2019 version. You can see a few differences, like there's some areas that are where the passage is shifted or grown compared to the others. So you can actually flip back and forth between the images and kind of see.
So the fumaroles are keeping the cave more or less consistent, but it's not 100% consistent. It's glacier ice, and it moves.
And as this glacier still keeps building up, the caves will only continue to grow as long as there's more ice to grow into, which is kind of neat.
Kind of cool.
Yeah. So that's Mothra. We can actually see the sort of spinny 3D version of it on that, like so. And if we actually, if we actually pause it there, that's kind of showing. So the slope of the entrances goes up to the left, following the lava dome. So most of the caves kind of have that, and then connecting a master passage to that. So yeah, that's kind of what that looks like. We can look at Crevasse Cave. In 2014, it had 2 entrances, an ice pit towards the bottom right there, and then a horizontal entrance at the top. And this is spatially plotted, which is why it's kind of the map, has this blank space a little bit that isn't used, because we can see the different versions. In 2017, we didn't complete the mapping of the cave in 2017, but we can see how it's grown towards the north side. And then in 2018, how it's grown even more. So to see that much growth, it's actually that passage has kind of almost doubled in length going to the north side over 4 years. So that's kind of neat. And then the way it's actually shifted in the cave as well is kind of neat. And that, I think, is more to do with glacial movement. That glacier has, at its toe, it's advanced at up like feet per day.
Sure. Is the precarious surface boulder, is that the meatball?
Yes, it is. Oh. Yeah, so on this one, a boulder came, it was probably like Volkswagen Beetle sized boulder that came off of the crater rim on our second last day, and it actually punched this skylight into the ceiling.
And like from camp, we could see the trail the rock had left behind, because we were looking at it, and you're sort of like, oh, was it rolling? It looks like it was sliding.
Yeah.
So like that, and there was kind of the giant meatball like slid and then went and landed right on top of the cave, punched a hole in it, but was still sitting beside the hole it punched in.
Yeah. And in 2019, it wasn't there, so we can only assume that it melted its way down and is now part of the cave floor.
It didn't go up.
So Rodan is another one of the significant caves, and this one's kind of neat because a lot of the East Crater caves aren't influenced by the glacier features like crevasses and moulins. So this one actually has a couple places where crevasses intersect the cave, which is a really cool thing to see from underground. And then it sort of wraps around the curvature of the lava dome, mostly horizontal. So we can see all the caves plotted around the 2004 to 2008 lava dome here. And then the Igloo Cave is the one on the top right on the side of the 1984 lava dome. So that's where our camp is. And you can see kind of where they all are around the lava dome. And you can see some of the Godzilla theme names that we've come up with for those.
And then, so the blank space further down the glacier, so I think that's as the elevation decreases faster, you start getting more crevasses, more glacial movement. So probably less hopeful for having time to form more glacier or fumarole caves.
Yeah. yeah, we kind of figured that they might be more crevasses than caves, really necessarily. Yeah. But anyways, that's about 2.3 kilometers worth of cave passages over 10 caves that we've so far surveyed, and that's the latest information.
Oh, and we really, really wanted to go this year because it was the 40th anniversary of the eruption.
Yeah, we had big plans to be in the crater on the date of the 40th anniversary, but the pandemic, which is why the convention is virtual, is also the reason why we are not in the crater this year, and everything's postponed. So we miss it, but we'll be back. This is our 2018 team. We've had a few different teams there, but this is one of the group shots that we did. And actually, you can see the meatball boulder trail. If you look at the center of the image, there's actually a trail in the snow that goes down from there, down, and then it just kind of stops right there. That is not our hiking trail. This is our hiking trail here. But this trail that's marked by the mouse, that is the meatball boulder coming, and it actually came to rest on top of the crevasse cave right out of view. But yeah, so that's our team. Eddie Cartaya is again one of the leaders of the trips, and he's here on the extreme right hand side back row. So we just want to make mention of him, but we've had quite a few people as part of the teams, and without all of them we couldn't do this very exciting work.
Yeah.
Right. Anything else, Katie?
No, this is a super cool, unique place.
Yep. And
I like it.
Happy to share it with you all virtually in this time of weird convention happenings. But because of it, we're able to share it with you. So in that sense, it's a bonus. So thank you for listening, and have a great rest of your convention and caving time.